This is Top Accolade Global News Updates. I am Soibifa Jackridge. Israel said on Monday no ceasefire had been implemented in southern Gaza, even though security sources in Egypt said a deal had been reached to allow foreigners out of the besieged Palestinian enclave and aid to be brought in. As a humanitarian crisis gripped Gaza, two Egyptian security sources said Israel had agreed to halt its bombardment of southern Gaza. The Egyptian-controlled Rafah border crossing was expected to reopen to allow foreign passport holders to leave, they said. But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said in a statement there's currently no truce and humanitarian aid in Gaza in exchange for getting foreigners out. The Israeli military and the U.S. embassy in Israel had no comments, while officials from Hamas, which has fired rockets at Israel since its assault on civilians there just over a week ago, did not confirm any ceasefire. The situation remained unclear at the Rafah crossing, the only one not controlled by Israel, which has imposed a full blockade on Gaza, where food is running short. Hundreds of tons of aid from several countries have been held up in Egypt for days pending a deal for its safe delivery to Gaza and the evacuation of some foreign passport holders through the Rafah crossing. Egypt has said bombardment had rendered the crossing inoperable. The United States has told its citizens in Gaza to get close to the crossing so they can move out. The U.S. government estimates the number of dual citizen Palestinian Americans in Gaza at 500 to 600 among the enclave population of 2.3 million, and Washington hopes to get many of its nationals out of harm's ways. Global finance leaders' paralysis in addressing the fallout from the Hamas attack and Israel's response last week exposed deep geopolitical divisions hampering the International Monetary Fund and World Bank, even as they advanced new funding plans aimed at easing more frequent economic shocks. Hamas launched its unprecedented attack on Israel on October 7th, just as top finance officials arrived in Morocco for the IMF and World Bank annual meetings. On pending the gatherings, carefully crafted scripts calling for new resources and steps to revive flagging global growth. IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva did not mention the new conflict at opening events. Later, as Israel's retaliatory strike mounted, she struggled to address it, initially describing it as human tragedy, but a vague source of economic uncertainty. In the face of a major global shock like this that humans created, that's not a climate shock. These institutions are impotent to do anything about it. In the face of a major global shock like this that humans created, that's not a climate shock. These institutions are impotent to do anything about it, which is why they are not even talking about it, said Raphael Nadelman, the senior research fellow at American University's Accountability Research Center, who attended civil society and official events at the meetings. The inability to respond extended to chairs' statements issued by the group of 20 major economies and the IMF and World Bank steering committees, which failed to mention the conflict. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is even more controversial, almost impossible to reach consensus, officials said. Iran warned Israel of escalation if it's failed to end aggressions against Palestinians, with its foreign minister saying other parties in the region were ready to act. The semi-official Fars news agency reported on Sunday, if the Zionist aggression do not stop, the hands of all parties in the region are on the trigger. Hossein Amir Abdullahian was quoted as saying, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed on Sunday to demolish Hamas as his military prepared to move into the Gaza Strip in search of Islamist militants whose deadly rampage through Israeli border towns shocked the world. Israel has long accused Iran's clerical rulers of stoking violence by supplying arms to Hamas. Tehran says it gives moral and financial support to the group, which controls the Gaza Strip. Backing the Palestinians' cause has been a pillar of the Islamic Republic since the 1979 revolution, and a way the Shiite-dominated country has fashioned itself as a leader of the Muslim world. Amir Abdullahian Dahan, who last week accused Israel of seeking genocide by enforcing a siege against the Gaza Strip, said an attack on Gaza would open new fronts of resistance in the Middle East. The responsibility for the possible opening of new fronts of resistance in the region and any escalation of today's war directly falls on the United States and the Zionist regime, Amir Abdullahi said. Amir Abdullahi met with Hamas leaders Ismail Haniyeh on Saturday in Qatar, where they discussed the group's deadly attack in Israel and agreed to continue operation to achieve the group goals, the Iran-backed Hamas said in a statement. Earlier, Iran's President Ebrahim Raisi urged France to help prevent operation of Palestinians in a phone call with his counterpart Emmanuel Macron. The new rules will be added to sweeping U.S. restrictions on shipments of advanced ships and shipmaking equipment to China unveiled last October. The updates are expected this week, other people familiar with the matter said. Though such timetables often slip, the new rules will block some AI chips that fall just under current technical parameters while demanding companies report shipments of others, said the officials, who provided information on condition of anonymity. The latest crackdown on tech exports to China coincides with U.S. efforts to tell difficult relations between the world's two largest economies. Several senior members of the Biden administration have met their Chinese counterparts in recent months. The latest round of rules risks complicating the diplomatic efforts. The Biden administration has said it's designed the export curbs to keep U.S. chips and equipment from strengthening China's military. Belgium has accused the United States of abusing export controls to suppress Chinese companies. The restrictions marks historic shifts in U.S.-China tech policy. The U.S. now plans to reintroduce new guidelines for AI chips that will restrict certain advanced data center AI chips that are not currently captured, the U.S. official said. Pope Francis' representative in the Holy Land said on Monday he was willing to exchange himself for Israeli children taken hostage by Hamas and held in Gaza. Cardinal Pierbattista Pizzaballa, the Patriarch of Jerusalem, made his comments in response to a question during a video conference with journalists in Italy. "I am ready for an exchange. Anything. If this can lead to freedom, to bring the children home, no problem. There is a total willingness on my part," he said. "The first thing to do is to try to win the release of the hostages. Otherwise, there will be no way of stopping an escalation. We are willing to help, even me personally," he said. He stressed, however, that he and his office had not yet had any direct contact with Hamas, the militant Islamist group that attacked Israel on October 7th, killing 1,300 people. "You can't talk to Hamas. It is very difficult," he said. Pizzaballa said that about 1,000 Christians were sheltering in church buildings in northern Gaza after their homes were destroyed in Israeli strikes. They don't know where to go because moving is dangerous, he said. Israel has urged exhausted Gazans to evacuate to the south, which hundreds of thousands have already done in the enclave that is home to more than 2 million people. Hamas, which runs Gaza, has told people to ignore Israel's message. That is the size of top Accolade Global News Updates. You can follow us on our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy Monday.